two of the core guys moving forward for the Nets for all we know.
Yeah, and they're going to have the patience to develop these players as they have started already a year ago with a couple of the young guys that they had, Allen being one of them, who's just a baby, but he showed so much growth last year as a potential big man, versatile offensive and defensive player. But that's what Kenny Atkinson and his staff are all about, developing young people, putting the time in. I wanted to mention this. I thought it was very important. When Sean Marks got there, the first thing he had to do was change the culture, how people thought, how you acted in Brooklyn. And I think this is a tremendous statement. Last season, I believe 13 out of their 14 players lived in Brooklyn. And that's unheard of. That's never happened before. They're either in Manhattan, they're in Connecticut, they're in New Jersey. They all bought into living in Brooklyn. And that's the beginning, I think, right there.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a great area. And look, there's so much of an international feel in that area. I think they'll embrace these players. You think about Kenny Atkinson. This group, we sit here night after night and we cover so many games. They were outmatched, out-talented many times, but they never were out-efforted or out-prepared. It always seemed like Kenny had this club ready to play.
Really, he really did. He did an excellent job of what you said, developing the young guys on the fly, and his influence was, second to none. Had the guys playing at an unbelievable rate, believing in themselves. Some of the guys even going out there having out-of-body performances at times. So, they're going to have to continue to do this going forward. They have an identity now. They have a wealth of young talent that's headed in the right direction, and, looking forward to the marathon of the season from these guys.
You think about the growth of the players. You got to witness it firsthand. What was it that Kenny Atkinson and his staff did that enabled some of these players like Allen, Dinwiddie, among others, to grow the way they did this past season?
Part of it is giving them the confidence and the green light to go ahead and try these things. There's a certain system that Kenny Atkinson wants to play in. He wants to play up-tempo. He wants to get shots up more quickly. He wants three-pointers to be taken by the team. And he allowed his players to do that. They had so many opportunities at the end of games in those last 3 minutes where they led and just could not hold on at the end. There are two glaring things, I would say, coming into this season: defense and rebounding. They hopefully address, by bringing in Kenneth Faried and then Ed Davis from Portland. Two guys that can rebound and hit that glass for you. So maybe that's the beginning of them correcting some of the problems.
Talking about growth as a franchise, we saw it from one player, a premier player, at least from where he was picked in the draft last year, when you think about the growth that we saw in D'Angelo Russell.
Russell, the handles, and the deuce. Russell, the J. He's got it. Russell takes advantage. Special. There's Russell. Oh, he's feeling it.
In the situation in L.A., let's say it like it is. It was kind of a mess in a lot of different ways, and not because he's not talented. It just didn't fit. How much did you see him more comfortable on the floor when we saw him healthy before and after the injury last year?
I saw him a lot more comfortable, and for numerous reasons, because you had a guy in Spencer Dinwiddie that was playing at an amazing clip. So you had to come back, and it was pressure on you to perform at alarming rate immediately. And when he came back, being pretty much the face of this organization, especially with Lopez gone, he had to perform at a high level and be consistent while doing that after sitting out some time. And he came back and he did exactly that. But going forward, I want to see more. It's a lot of expectations on him as a young quality player, and I think that he will deliver.
Coach, where did he get better last year from what you saw?
Well, there's no question that the microscope is on this young man. He's number 2 pick in the draft back in 2015. And to go along with what you said about Dinwiddie, Nets won 28 games a year ago. 18 of those 28 wins were with Dinwiddie starting, not D'Angelo Russell. So I think when he came back from the injury, he knew how well Dinwiddie was playing. He knew what the fans expected of him, and he stepped up his game. This guy's a big shot maker. He can make shots.
He's a gamer.
Can he help a team win? That's what I'm waiting to see. Can he take that leadership role and bring guys together and get W's on the board? There's no question he's talented. There's no question this guy can knock down shots and with range. But can he get a team to win?
Is it too early to answer the question whether or not he can ever live up to being the face of a franchise when you're a number 2 overall pick? Sometimes we want things now. I think of Victor Oladipo. Look at what he did last year. There were people for a while saying, Karan, that he wasn't going to live up to that pick. He is now. Can we see Russell get there someday?
I hope so, and I think so. You saw that with Victor because he went and joined a budding superstar where he learned all the traits of being consistent and all these things. D'Angelo Russell had one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player ever to grace the stage, in Kobe Bryant. So you was playing up under him. So those things, the seeds that he planted in you, should be, evolving right now and, flourishing. So this is an interesting year for him, and this is go time for D'Angelo Russell.
Let me just mention something that happens over and over again now in our league. And Allen with Brooklyn is another example. 18 years old when he came into the NBA. We have so many of these young players that come in at 18, 19 years old. Their maturity level isn't close to what it has to be a successful player in the NBA. They don't understand. They don't get it. They don't know how hard they have to work. How many will come back in years 2 and 3 with their body fat much lower than it is in the first year that they come in? They think they're in good shape, but then they don't understand how to eat properly. And by the time they get done learning from the NBA clubs, they're different players. They've transformed their body. They can do different things.
You talked about Allen. You may have first at home noticed him because of his hair, but you stayed paying attention because of his play. We'll break down his growth. Take a look at the Nets depth chart heading into this season when we come back.
Team preview tonight on NBA TV.
Well, you look at the defense. Where is the defense? You know what's going to help the Nets is having it in the middle. And they got versatile, they got big, and they got Jarrett Allen. And even though a lot of people, as I said, might have noticed him first, Coach, because of his hair, they really took notice of his play. I know you were excited about his potential and the growth last year. What did you see in both?
There was so much that improved with this young man, just his awareness on the court. He came in as I believe, an 18-year-old entering the league. And the more that Kenny Atkinson gave him time and showed him confidence until he finally worked his way into the starting lineup, which he earned and deserved. And then they worked with him, and every aspect of his game developed to where you really looked at this young man and said, we may have something special here for down the road. Yes, he has to put some weight on. He's going to get stronger naturally, but his shot improved, his offensive moves around the basket, sticking his nose in for rebounds. They were a very poor rebounding team, and he's just now starting to learn how to protect the front of the rim, which in turn will help their defense.
And you see even in those highlights, the motor. He's got that youth, but even with that size, able to run the floor, get up and down with the Nets, which they want to do.
Yeah, I was really impressed with his activity, Coach, on the defensive end starting off with, but most importantly then on the offensive end. Seeing him finish around the basket, left hand, right hand, had some moments where he put a couple guys in some trendy situations, on social media where he was finishing around the basket and dunking like what you just saw right there. So he's a guy that's going to flourish in this system. I think pace is going to really help him. And having some other guys to anchor that defense to protect the paint, special year for this kid.
Coach, we talked about Kenny Atkinson, the things he and his staff want to do. Is he a perfect fit? Why is Jarrett Allen now a nice fit in the middle for this team moving forward?
Earlier in the show, we mentioned the fact that they had to get better on the glass and they had to improve defensively, because when you look at the numbers statistically, they lost so many close games in the fourth quarter, and that comes down to stops very often. If you get a big guy who's active, who can get into rotations, who can block shots, who can get them offensive rebounds to give them second shot opportunities, and as Karan just mentioned, the way he is active and runs the floor, that's just what Kenny Atkinson wants in his system. He looks like a perfect fit.
Yeah, and look, he's so young. So all of the mistakes and the things that he learned from last year, how much do you remember from a young player, year 1 to year 2? What kind of things are now a little bit easier, more comfortable for Allen than they were the first time around?
Well, I think it's taught lessons, by trial and error. You're out there, you're physically out there making the mistakes on the fly, learning on the fly, and then you're watching film, you're getting educated in the film sessions. So now you go into an off season where you worked on all the little mishaps of your game, you tweak some things, and then you come out, same coach, same style of play, a lot of the play is dictated on how you play. Around you, the system is going to flow off of you. So that's a huge plus. I think it's going to be a big year for him.
There are a lot of different pieces you like from what you saw from the Nets last year. Moving into this one, as you look at the depth chart, and Coach, obviously you got to start with Spencer Dinwiddie. As you said, a lot of their wins last year of the 28-18, right, directly associated to him being in that starting lineup.
Dinwiddie was more than just a surprise. Okay, he wound up leading that team and getting 18 of those wins as a starter out of their 28. But the name up there that really jumps out right now as far as this training camp and what's gone on, Caris LeVert has been simply outstanding. Every player is talking about him. His development now is rounding out of his game where now he's not only a catch and shoot guy or fast break finish with dunks. Now he puts it on the floor, has peripheral vision, makes his teammates better, can stop, elevate off the dribble, shoot, and make jump shots on a regular basis. He's gotten stronger. His footwork is so much better now. And he credits watching Kyrie Irving's workouts for his improvement over the summer.
You know, it's interesting because you talk about the scoring of the backcourt, LeVert, his ability to score the basketball, and Dinwiddie. What I love was the big shot making. It was amazing how many times in those wins he was responsible for the big shots they had down the stretch of games.
Yeah, he's a guy that's ready for the moment. You know, I seen him this offseason in the summer working on his craft, working on his left hand, working on his right hand, getting into the seams of the defense, facilitating for guys. I've seen it on numerous occasions where he's attacking the game in a different way every time he play pickup basketball. And then you got guys like Ed Davis that's coming from Portland, Shabazz Napier that's coming, that's going to add depth to that backcourt. So it's going to be a good year for those guys, and just I'm looking forward to this, the expectations of Spencer Dinwiddie in specific.
You mentioned expectations. When you have a big contract and what some might say is bigger than your performance, we always talk about what you don't do, not what you do. And Alan Crabb had that situation, not only for the team he was on, but then contract gets moved to Brooklyn. Same thing. Can he get up to those expectations? Forgetting the money for a second, what did you see from Crabb that you liked last year, Coach?
I saw a little bit more of the shot making I was hoping for. I can't say that I'm convinced now that this guy is a great shooter all the time on a regular basis, like Kyle Korver. Let me use him as an example. But this guy did improve, did show me that he can have nights where he's going to have big games because of his shot-making ability. They brought him in to surround that three-point line, something that they want to play to and need guys, obviously, that can make those shots. I think we'll continue to see him grow more this season. He'll be a little bit more comfortable. Remember, they went after him, didn't get him at first.
That's right.
And then went back and got him second time around. So they obviously really like Crabb. And I expect a better year this year than last year. He was okay last year. I'd like him to be better than okay.
You think about the guards and their ability to get to the basket, Allen underneath, having a shooter like Crabb obviously going to benefit the offense.
Yeah, it's going to open up a lot of real estate, you know, and that's exactly what you want. You need not just shot takers, but shot makers. And Crabb possessed that ability, which Coach just touched on. He's making shots at an amazing clip. You saw little glimpses of that this past season, and you want him to continue to build on that. And that's going to give the real estate necessarily for those big guys, Carroll to slash and do the things that he's accustomed to being accustomed to. And you're going to see the bigs like Ed Davis, Fareed live at the rim, finishing with the strong twos.
Yeah, you mentioned strong. You think about Davis, you think about Fareed, and what Carroll added to that team. They have that veteran grit that you'd like to have, right, Coach, if you're Kenny Atkinson around some of these younger players?
Well, just Kenny alone instills that into the players on his team. And he's not afraid to, after the game in the locker room, to say the things that need to be said, particularly if he doesn't think that they're as aggressive and as tough-minded as they need to be. He gets his message across the right way.
And for Carroll, obviously, from a veteran standpoint, you could tell the impact he had just from the guys being around him last year.
Yeah, he wants to play, he wants to win, he wants to play the right way, and the young guys need that voice. They need a guy that's been through some wars and some battles and that understand the game and, you know, how to be consistent. And I think he possessed all those things.
All right, we know the East doesn't possess this LeBron. He's out. So everybody thinks it's wide open, but how much has it opened? The door perhaps for the Brooklyn Nets. We'll have the starters help us out. Just how high are the hopes for this Brooklyn team this coming season?